The jet is taken off.
We have liftoff.
Well, the Winnipeg Arena is all right.
It's a special night for Winnipeg, a special night for this entire province as the puck is dropped.
For Buffalo, cross ice for Riley, scores!
Mark Shoutley gives the Jets the lead.
Take it to the Jets game today.
It clearly will be one of the best places to come and watch a National Hockey League game.
The Winnipeg Jets are proud to select from the USHL Youngstown, Kyle Connor.
Jets Fantasy Fuel Podcast, Episode 8, coming in hot. We're doing top 11 wings for the year, fantasy relevant. We got another co-host on today here, Patty Sumrocks. Where does your last name come from? A little background on you.
It's just I have a French last name.
Yeah.
So it's kids just made fun of the last name being translated to English, so switched it over to Sumrocks. It's
and it's stuck ever since.
And it's stuck.
I do like it because it
Yeah.
sounds like Irish, almost like a Patty Shamrock, but it's Patty Sumrocks if you're.
Yeah, no Irish, just French.
Day. What's your last name?
DeRoche.
Okay, yeah. Nice. So you're living in Ottawa for a bit. Obviously, you became a Sens fan when you're living down there, and when you moved here a few years ago, it was obviously converted over to the Jets there. And recently, when we've been talking hockey, you've given up on Ottawa, and I don't blame you. What's going on in Ottawa then?
It's that owner. I swear, I have a higher net worth than he does. He can't pay his gambling debts.
Yeah.
He can't get an arena funded from the city. Everything's just a disaster. Stone leaves, Carlson leaves, Alfie leaves twice. Spezza gets traded. He can't keep
Trade
a player.
Hoffman for nothing, and San Jose gets a better trade 2 minutes after it.
Yeah, it's just a total train wreck, and they are impossible to cheer for right now.
Yeah.
So I'm holding down the home team, cheering for now until I see what Seattle looks like. I'm pretty excited with Ron Francis taking over down there.
In a position like that too, I read the article how he owes $900K to the casino and he's getting sued over it.
Yeah, it's Melnick can't. I don't know what he's doing.
And I don't know much. Sorry about Ottawa. Is Melnick is the owner?
Yes.
If
yeah.
you're fucking owner of an NHL team, how do you not have $90K to pay the casino?
At 900,000.
Yeah.
It's if you're owner of an
900,
NHL
yeah.
team, you shouldn't be making $900,000 bets if you're not willing to pay normal salary. It's if you want to think about it, the forwards on the Toronto Maple Leafs now make $50 million this year.
Yeah.
And the entire Senators' payroll this year salary is $43 million. So it's a little disappointing.
Yeah. Obviously, betting on himself or in himself or anyone betting on Ottawa should almost give up now. It's exciting that obviously moving here, watching the Jets grow as a team it's pretty fun to watch. And I guess as your number 2 replacement, you've been talking about Seattle kind of slotting in as your second team that you're gonna adopt.
It's, not wanting to bandwagon on good teams.
Yep.
And then Ron Francis taking over as GM position.
Yep.
Down in Seattle. It's pretty exciting.
He's a perfect fit.
Yeah, it's gonna make some good decisions down there. So looking forward to it.
And they have more time to prepare too, like seeing who's gonna be free agents for that year. A lot of teams on the other side too are comparing their list, not signing someone, keeping someone, knowing eventually you're going to lose one good player, but having a few years of experience of like when that time is, everyone's going to lose a good player. So no matter what, I think Seattle will be kind of like maybe not as good as Vegas, but a pretty good startup team. So watching them from like day one will be pretty rewarding if they ever win. I'm not saying though.
Exactly. Like they'll be a competitive team without a bad contract on it. Can't say that for most teams in the NHL.
Yeah, and the Pacific's always been up and down. You always have, San Jose coming in hot. Calgary's been up and down the last few years, but there's no really consistent team. Arizona's kind of on the rise. I have them to make playoffs, but coming into, I assume they'll be in that division, being right under basically Vancouver. I think they're going to have an easier way into playoffs right
Definitely.
away. So just depends who they get and whatnot. But that's exciting for you. Let's get back to Jets talk here. It's a first preseason game tomorrow, Monday at 8 o'clock against the Oilers. I don't believe McDavid's going to be skating, so I won't be able to watch him. So I'm going to have to watch the Jets. So should be watching them anyways. But should be. I'm not sure what to think about it. Training camp was up and down. I'm not sure if people were partying this summer. Huge miss on Bufflin there. He didn't go to training camp. Like literally right before he was supposed to go to training camp. He was skating earlier this week on ice and stuff, and I don't know if it's maybe an injury thing. They're saying it's not, but he took a leave of absence, and there's no really return on when he's going to be back. Chevy said he's healthy, but he asked for some personal time, so they obviously gave it to him. In a few earlier casts that I've had, I've said that I only had him playing 40 games this year. He only played 42 games last year. He had concussion, ankle problems. He's a heavy guy, so like it's probably a little more weight on the ankles. It makes sense why he'd have injuries like that. He had 27 minutes of ice time. He'd average at 2 years ago, 24 this year. Might go down to 20 this year. He seems to be in a regressing state to the point where if we don't know what's going on with him, that's fine. We don't have to. Personal, whatever it is. But it comes back to if it's personal, if it's injury, maybe he didn't have a good summer. Maybe he had a really good summer. Like, who's that stuff? But whatever's going on, he's not going to be at the preseason game playing, and it's unfortunate. But at the same time, what we could take good out of this is gives more of the rookies more opportunity, and we're going in that direction. So if Sammy Niku, Poolman, whoever it is that wants to step up and play, if they get a little more shown, a little more ice time, I think it's almost not the worst thing for the team. It's obviously a blow, but if you look at the good thing of it, rookies get a little more ice time for sure there. But
Morrissey's going to be key, definitely.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of the few returning members. They lost 4 of their 6D, essentially. With Bufflin missing the start of the season, Trouba, Myers, and Sherratt gone.
Yeah.
It's
Morrow, if you count him as a defense as well.
They need so much more reps for the start of this year, and Bufflin missing is going to be a pretty big blow, definitely.
Yeah, and I think everyone kind of knew he would be a blow. I'd rather him miss time now than, February or January when they're trying to get ready for playoffs. So maybe it's a good thing, but it's hard to start the year. You're coming in, like, you look at Nylander last year coming in December 1st, right after he signed the contract. He didn't get going for another, month or two. Like, that's why they have training camp. That's why they have all these fitness tests. The best teams are making people skate. You get your GVs out right away, and you get to that game speed right away. So missing time and coming back, he'll have a slow start maybe this year and maybe bounce back candidate, but in the long term, I'd rather have him for playoffs than not, if they make playoffs. But missing him for a lot of the year, I don't know if playoffs are possible this year, but we'll see what happens with that. Morrissey, though, you're talking about him, just signed an 8-year, 6.25 average annual. He's only 24 years old. We got him locked up for another 9 years because he's still on that other year contract. That's a huge steal.
Took a page out of that Scheifele book. Took a big hometown discount, staying with the team, making sure they can be competitive with some other contracts, and it's a great contract if you're a Jets fan.
But if you look at the recent signings too, like Sam Girard, Isa Lindell, they're around the 5 to 6 mil. So him getting just over is good. I think if I was his agent, I'd be looking for more of a 7.5, considering Trouba got 8 and Morrissey has a little more upside with his age. And the whole, he can shut down players every time. It's not just his offense game. He's just coming into his offense game. He skates well, shuts down players. He has 340 hits, 416 block shots in 223 games. He comes to play. If it's not getting points, he's actually contributing in ways that behind the play, if you actually watch it closely, he is a stellar stone.
His stick-to-stick is unbelievable, too.
Oh, yeah, his poke checks, whatever you want to call it, he always seems to get a stick on everything, and to have him locked up for almost a decade is pretty sweet. So
especially at a $6 million number.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that looks good now. Let's compare this in 3 years when that number should be around 8 or 9, low, right? With
definitely.
Cap going up and whatnot. So taking a hometown discount, a little shout out from Morrissey there. But let's jump into our top 11 wings here. We pretty much had a similar list, and obviously number 1 isn't really that debatable. Nikita Kucherov, 82 games, full season last year, 41 goals, 87 assists. Did I say that properly? 87 assists? Are you kidding me? 128 points. It's amazing. 48 power play points. Even if that regresses to 40 this year, he would still hit the 110, 115 range. I don't think the 128 is doable again this year. It's more so of it seemed like everything just kind of clicked last year. Everything worked. He's an amazing player. He's got a really good shot. Obviously, being on a line with Point is pretty nice. Having Stamkos and Hedman on a power play, he'll still hit the 40-point range, but there's no one really comparing that. If he regresses, it's a 110, 115. A lot of these other players on our list are, if they have a good season, it will
That's
be
their
110,
ceiling.
115. So there's no really, there's no debate here. He's got, he had a 16.7 shooting percent last year, and he averages at 14.8. In my books, anytime I've looked up numbers and anything in the background, it's, if you're shooting over a 12%, you're making these shots count. And he had a decent amount of shots last year, so like 246 shots. So like if he's hitting that, that's even in the middle of that, like 15%, he'll still hit his 40 goals. He'll still hit his like at least 100 points. So there's no debate of him being a different placement. To make, I guess, life a little less confusing for our listeners here, we're gonna compare my list to yours, Patty. So I got a little bit of debates going on my next list. You'll find out at number 9 why it's a debate. Patty Kane, where did you have him on your list?
I had him at number 3.
Yep. Okay.
Personally.
So that's fair. I got him at 2. 44 goals, 66 assists, 110 points last year, 30 power play points. I think that could move up to the 35 range. It could get to 40. I don't see it happening, but at least a 35 power play points. You give him 5 points there. The rise of DeBrincat. If DeBrincat can just do what he does and just score, he'll be fine. A lot of people are iffy on the Kane because of what they think of Strome. And Strome last year, coming from Arizona and just having a breakout season, everyone's in a debate of, can he do it again? And at what point will he start doing it again? He will. It just matters how many months into the season, when can they get that chemistry going? But ideally, if you're playing with DeBrincat and Kane on a line, and that's your second line, that's a bit ridiculous. The matchups you're going to get are ridiculous. It's not like Kane's playing against top players. Yeah, maybe on the power play, but on a second line with those players is why we have him placed so high.
Kane's always just been incredibly consistent.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a missed season very often at all, if ever.
Yeah.
He's just a lock for that 85 to 110 point range, and I think he'd be crazy to not have him in your top 3, let alone top 11.
Yeah, there's no debate. The consistency there. You're talking about an 85 point to 110 kind of point raise or a variance.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look back 6 years ago, when the NHL was pretty tough still, he had 105 points. The last 4 years before he got the 110, he's had about the 85, 90 points. So if you take in consideration of last year being the first year where it's a different league, people are getting called for stuff, good players like that have more room out there. He's a perfect player for the new game they have and the new NHL they have, to the point where it's like, yeah, you got 110 points last year. If he regresses, it's going to be 105, and if he gets more, it'll probably be 115. Has a really good season, maybe 120. We could break it. It depends how the newcomers come on Chicago, the surrounding cast. You have a few more shutdown defense. I've never really liked Olimata from Pittsburgh. Yeah. I've never really liked him. He got drafted pretty high, and he had all this spunk around him, but I just never thought he was going to be that good. But it's not. It's more so it doesn't matter who Kane's playing with.
You can tell by the Pittsburgh fans cheering that they are not a fan of the Mata.
Yeah.
Kane's going to get it done regardless of who's playing in Chicago. He's just that consistent. And when you're gambling on your fantasy team, putting money on the line, you love to have the sure thing. So when Patrick Kane's still on the board, you're silly not to take a stab at it.
Most of the drafts I had last year, he was like dropping to like 7 and 8 and like 9th overall and whatnot, and just because the years he had before that. And I didn't take him because I already had McKinnon and somebody at that point. I think Kucherov at that point. So I didn't take him because I had to spread out the money we had to spend on it. We did the Yahoo one. You had $200 to spend on fake money on players, and like McDavid went for $67 as your first pick. So like you gotta kind of strategize. You gotta pick maybe 1 or 2 in the top 10, and then you gotta drop till the 3rd or 4th round. I picked up Marner in the 5th round last year in both my drafts, like knowing he was gonna be the top Leafs, and here he is, number 3, Marner. 82 games, full season last year. getting acquisition of Tavares definitely helped his game. He had, I think, about 70 points the year before, but with Tavares on his line, 26 goals, 68 assists, 94 points. And the crazy thing is he only had 21 power play points. So when you look at the, they picked up Barry for the full season. You got Nylander for a full season now. I think there's a little more momentum going in Toronto. So if you move that number up to the 30, 35 point range, that puts him just at 104, 109 points without him getting better. So if he gets just better naturally for how young he is and how diverse he is, he could definitely hit the 115 range. I have him for about, the 107 kind of range this year. It was a pretty tough choice between Kane and Marner. I think Marner has a little more upside just because of the age, but Kane is just definitely that solid brick kind of pick. And when you look at it, it just depends who you're cheering for, but placement, Marner's playing against first-line people, and he's still putting up these points too. So that's why I have Kane ahead of him, playing on the second line, being the same ideally player. He's going to have better matchups, but when you're playing with Tavares, you ask anyone that has in the past, he's pretty good player to play with, I've heard and seen. But
Marner's definitely on my list too, but way further down at number 6.
Yeah.
A little bit of devil's advocate.
Yeah.
After the big fat contract, you don't know if he's going to start.
Okay.
Taking it a little bit easier out there, not playing as much for the money anymore. That attitude displayed between the father, agent, and himself over the summer, not a big fan of that. But at the end of the day, he still makes my top 6. Just, he's way too talented. He's still going to get... my range is a little bit lower than Blair's, but at the 90 to 115, it's still a lock for a great season for him, definitely.
They're calling him like Dougie Gilmore last year, like the Toronto's new Dougie Gilmore, and like to be able to be honored and called that is pretty special for sure.
It could also be just some residual Ottawa fanness in me. I can't let a Maple Leaf make my top 5.
It could be that. I like that. We're gonna end on that note. End of segment 1 here, but we'll be right back for segment 2. Cheers. All right, welcome back, segment 2. This has been a pretty hard list. From 2 to 6 basically was a toss-up, and when you go into depth about shooting percent, if it's around the 15-16, they're going to be pretty good. How many shots they take, what their lineup placement's like, how many power play points they had last year, the surrounding cast of which might affect that for this year. Once you get into depth of things, it's an easy save for me, and a lot of people are going to maybe hate me or argue this pick I have, but I got Rantanen coming hot at number 4. A lot of people don't. We've been talking about this. You didn't think he was gonna sign, and
he's still in Finland.
I know, but it comes to more of a how much money does Colorado have to spend, and they got enough to basically they could have signed him and Panarin and kept them both and signed a few more players. They had before the free agent started with the Panarin stuff. They had the first or second most money to spend out of all the NHL teams. They've just not spent any money on any players.
Ottawa has tons of room.
That too. I don't think he's going there. McKinnon's at he's got like a 5.3 cap hit last year.
McKinnon's on. If you guys Jets fans think that Scheifele's on a sweetheart deal, take a look at McKinnon's number. That one is some things that wet dreams are made of.
That was a steal, man. But yeah, Rantanen. He's for sure going to sign. You look at all these other teams. Toronto had the cap issue. That's why I think Marner took so long to sign. Winnipeg has the cap issue, and that's why Connor and Laine haven't signed yet. But now that Marner's signed, everything's going to start coming along, and I think a lot more people will sign. It's just that was what everyone was waiting for to kind of set the market. And I don't know the exact number. He's like a 10.8 or something Marner signed for.
Yeah.
I think with Rantanen, he's worth the 9 to 11.5, depending on what you want to call him for playoff experience too. He's a point per game player in playoffs. So
depending on weighting and the salary bonus, you want to give him, that's definitely a reasonable range.
Yeah, but it's going to be at least 9. I just hope Sakic doesn't risk any of the season play for it. But I can't see it happening. He'll be there for game 1 for sure. He's already practicing in Finland, so he'll be good to go. 74 games, 31 goals, 56 assists, 87 points, 33 power play points, almost 200 shots, but the most intriguing thing about Rantanen is if he played a full season last year, it would have been in the 96, 97 point range. And with a full season coming up this year, he has an average of 15.6 shooting percent. And when you can take his age, he's only 22, playing with McKinnon for a full season. He's definitely going to break the 100-point mark. And it's more of a last year when you saw him going to the second line. A lot of times they would try breaking up the McKinnon, the top line, to get a little better matchups for them. And it did open the ice up, but he'd basically have to carry that second line. Now that you have that second line as Kadri, Donskoy, Burakovsky, it doesn't matter who he's playing with it. It's a significant raise from what last year had. So surrounding cast, even the power play, Kadri being there, Barry taking less shots because he's not there, and Makar is more of a pass first or get the tip shot, so he'll like do low ones so people can get tips on it. Rantanen's tipping ability is almost as good as Landeskog's. His backhand's good. He's just one of the best players to watch, I would say, as like a supporting cast. So as a winger, putting him at forward, a lot of people probably have me reaching. NHL.com has him at the 8th best winger. I have him at 4, so I'm not too far off. I'm just taking consideration age, shot percent, lineup placement, and potential matchup. If he's dropping down the second line, it's almost better for him. He's playing against easier people and whatnot. Did you have Rant on your list?
If he was signed, I'd have him on my list 100%. Yeah. When you're spending money on fantasy, I just like having the sure thing and just the... What if it takes a month? What if it takes just a week? What if it takes as long as Nylander did?
Till December 1st.
Yeah, I don't want to miss that many games when my money's on the line and I'm picking this high for a player of this caliber.
Yeah.
I just like going for the sure thing. If he was signed, yeah, I'd have him probably down at 5th or 6th on my list. But right now, he's not on it at all.
Yeah.
Just because of the uncertainty.
Yeah. I know our draft last year, the main one I did, it was $100 to get in. There's 14 of us, so draft time comes and he's not signed yet. Are you going to pick him at 4? Probably not. But
there's too many questions in here. Is Landeskog going to finish as many of the passing plays as he did last year? Like, that's a lot of the...
He had a career year, and I don't think he'll get more points than that, but I think he'll be in the same range.
Yeah, so you're guessing now on not just him repeating a season, but on the contract as well lining up, which makes it too many balls in the air for me to put him that high on my stock.
If you go back like a year, like 2 years ago, he still had 84 points. So it's like this 87 points coming from a 74 game season isn't that far out of the ballpark, to the point where it's like if you have more than a 15% shooting percent and you're playing with McKinnon and your team got way better, you got like maybe one of the best rookie Ds coming up, I think it's a pretty safe bet at 4. It was a hard choice, and I debated for a while between him and Marchand. And obviously, I got Marchand coming in at 5.
There's so much talent in the league. On the wings, there's a lot of guys. It's hard to go wrong. Like you said, from 3 to 8 even. Yeah. It's such a painstaking job to try to place these guys and slot them correctly.
Yeah. It's more so like how much... if you're in a spending league, how much the other people want to spend on these players before and where you can get them. But if it's just a straight up draft player kind of thing, you might be taking a chance at the 4, but I'm more so looking at the upside in the years to come. He's a player we're going to watch out for, where maybe next year or the year after he might be slotting in a 2 or 3 just because of the age kind of thing. But
Marchand at 5. I have him at 2.
Okay.
It's the mix of guaranteed goal scoring. He's playing on that super stacked line. He's going to get all his touches. He's getting those PIMs. He's getting those hits. The only risk of him missing games is suspensions.
That's probably safe. That's a safe.
But he's just a terrific, consistently putting up points and fantasy points up on the board. I just have him up at 2 personally.
Yeah, line placement is not. Yours is a little more safer than mine. Upside wise, he keeps getting more points every year. He had 100 points last year, 34 power play points. That's not going to change. That could even get up to 40 with Bergeron and Pastrnak playing another 20 games this year. They only had about 65 each last year. So yeah, them playing more would give Marchand the 110 point range. I just don't know with, like, he's 31. You got Bergeron that's way overused. If they could potentially not play Bergeron like on the power play or the penalty kill and just playing him at like 5-on-5 and power play time, he would definitely hit that. And Marchand would hit that. There'd be less injuries to worry about. They're just almost overworked to the point where Marchand is playing the penalty kill as well. So he's not going to have as much energy to put towards that power play time.
I agree that they're overworked.
Yeah.
It's honestly dumbfounding to me that they're not playing Krejci more. Like, he's not a slouch at the 2C line. Like, they should be spreading the love a little bit more. And hopefully with Coyle in on the third center line, they're going to be able to spread the love a little bit more and let those guys rest up a little bit during the season.
But even if you look at it from like a blocking shots kind of aspect, it's like, do you want Marchand and Bergeron blocking shots? I'd be pissed if like Scheifele, Wheeler were on every like penalty kill or Connor. Like those like liner. You don't want those players blocking shots. You want them on your power play. You want to save that energy. So I only have him at 5, just the whole age concern. Yes, he has a 15.8 average shooting percent. He just seems to get in those right areas. Where he really took off was that Olympics about 4 years ago when he was playing with Bergeron and Crosby on that first line. That's the first time I really noticed.
Nice line to play on.
Yeah, and that boosted him with confidence into that season where he was doing stuff I've never seen him do before. And then he saw that grit part of his game. So his overall presence is there. But if we're talking like strictly points, I think the Kane, Marner, Rantanen, just because of...
He might be 31, but he was also a late bloomer. He came into the league way later than... He's not one of those guys that started off at 18, 19 years old.
True.
He came in later, so he's got a little bit less mileage on that body.
Yeah, last 4 years he's been like top 5 in the league for sure.
Yeah,
he's a safe bet, and you're going off safe. I'm going off more upside for my list of how the league's changing and how the game is changing itself. And 2 to 5, you're safe to go. Where'd you have Draisaitl? I had him at 6.
Number 4.
Okay,
I had him at 4,
and NHL had him at 5. So we're pretty much right there. I think because I.
In that ballpark, like we said, from 2 to 6, it's hard to go wrong. To be completely honest.
Yeah, depending on what your other players look like. If you need defense, center, whatever it is. But if you're picking wings, Draisaitl will be fine in that placement. He had 105 points last year. I don't know if he'll get that this year, only because his last year's shooting percent was a 21.6. He averages at 16, so even if he drops to the 18, which is better than his average, I still don't see him getting 50 goals. And with McDavid not starting the start of the year, Edmonton's new GM, he's more about building a team where you have depth, and he's known that in the past. He's not going to put them together because he wants to know who can play with McDavid on the first line. Draisaitl can carry the second line. Who's going to play with him? Yeah, they can meet up on the power play time, but I don't see them playing the full season together. 29 power play points, that probably won't change playing with McDavid. It's amazing anyone around McDavid, what he can do. But I just don't see that Draisaitl has as much upside this year. He still might hit the 100-point year, but I don't see him breaking the 105, and that's why I do have him dropped into the 6th spot. But
those are all fair points. I can't argue with that. But Edmonton also has a lot more positivity going around. There was a complete circus with Chiarelli, Hitchcock coming in, Lucic. There was a lot of rumors swirling around. Just there's no way that team was a lot of fun to be around. No. And this year with Neil coming in, having a positive relationship with McDavid already before starting the trade, Ken Holland bringing in some stability, Dave Tippett coming in, that team's going to be a lot stronger this year. If I were to say, I'm not sure they're a playoff team, but they're not going to be the same tire fire that they've been for the last decade.
Yeah, but like that's the thing too. Having a good GM come in, it's like, you're going to start building depth, but at some point you got to know that you have to have a couple bad years to have a couple good years. I think where Edmonton it starts is you can't have all these old timers that you can't fire these guys, or these guys are untouchable because they won the cup with us in 78, whatever it was, like back then. So
there's no danger of keeping guys because they were successful in Edmonton.
It's more of a new realm. Maybe the players they start drafting, they'll actually let marinate a bit and actually come in the league. They've ruined so many people's careers that it's sad to...
That Yamamoto kid might be good in some call-up spots during the year too.
He should have maybe been marinated a little more just because his size, but what he brings to the table I think is good. But there's got to be a certain point of letting people build their confidence before they come to the league, and a couple pounds. I feel like a lot of these people have the skill. They just get pushed around in Edmonton and not having that supporting cast. They're always so bad that you're not playing with as many good players. So
And those journalists too in Edmonton are ruthless.
yeah, it's almost like a Toronto. It's hard to play. It's a lot of media for sure. But my next pick is a bit of a reach. Well, for NHL.com anyways. They had Huberdeau at 21. I have him at 7. He's been on my draft for the last few years. Last cast we talked about how Barkov and Huberdeau was in one of my top lines there, and this is why I have him placed so high. 92 points last year. Kind of went under the radar with that. That's huge. Each year he gets a little more. Now that he's getting the flow of things, I think Barkov and him keep getting better. Power play time. Their top 6 is pretty heavy this year. I think with the whole picking up Bobrovsky, the defense are going to be able to pinch a little more and trust that on a 2-on-1. Bobrovsky has a little more chance of saving it. Last year, the defense were kind of like laying back a bit because they would look and be like, okay, I got Reimer back here. He's not that reliable, or whoever it may be. It's just now that they have the goaltending thing locked up, I think everything else is going to come. They're going to be making playoffs. I think Huberdeau and Barkov will be leading the way. He only had a 13.3 shot percent last year, but playing with Barkov for a full year on that spot, I think is a dangerous player. And I'm just looking at upside. 92 points last year, 34 power play points. He's probably going to hit about the same, maybe a 95, but I can't see him dropping, especially because his age, line placement, surrounding cast. It's more of maybe a 95 point year. He probably won't break 100, but he's safe for at least 90 points. So
I had him just missed off my list. Mm-hmm. I could not believe when you said he had 92 points last year. That was a surprise.
Yeah. Going under the radar.
But sure. He's terrific. Like, I can't argue too much that he's definitely in that realm. Yeah. And he's one of those players that you can look at his games played and sure there's some missing, but they're not from chronic injuries or from freak accidents for the most part. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that's just had some bad luck at the start of his year, and it's great that after playing with Barkov, he's been able to put up some points now. Yeah,
last couple of years were healthy. It was hard to get going like 3 or 4 years ago. They were, you said not freak accidents. They were. He fucking broke his leg on the net. That never happens.
Like out of nowhere.
Kind of like the McDavid Stamkos thing. It was kind of like a freak. It was hard to watch, right? But,
so hopefully he gets to keep going on the consistency, and next year when we put him at 7, it's not going to be a surprise out of nowhere.
No, and you heard it here first on Jets Fantasy Fuel Podcast. That wraps up segment 2. We'll be right back for segment 3. All right, welcome back. Segment 3. Panarin coming in number 8 on my list. NHL.com. I had him at 10 for top wingers. Where'd you have him?
7.
So, yep, similar.
We're just more high on him going to New York, I guess, than NHL is.
Yeah, more touches. Zibanejad having a breakout year this year.
Trouba
on the power play.
Kako.
Yeah. I think it's a bit more skilled surrounding cast than they had in Columbus. Columbus is more of a grittier team, I think, having some of those players back there. But
I agree. Panarin's just a lock for a 90 to 100, I feel.
Yeah, he's 87 points last year. The upside about him, though, he only had 18 power play points. So if that can reach up to the 25-30, that's another 10 points right there. You'd have him about a 97. Like 93, 97, depending on that. So him and Huberdeau are pretty close in my regards there. Really good shooting percent, 14.2 average there. I don't think that's going down anytime soon. Kako, a lot of people are talking about who's going to have more points, him or Hughes, and I think Kako could reach the 70-point range. I think he's a little more NHL ready than Hughes, a little bigger body. I don't think he has as much upside down the road as Hughes does with the IQ level.
And less pressure, too.
Yeah.
Just in general. Way less pressure.
Yeah, and we could see it in the Worlds, him coming out big for that. Hughes looked a little, not overwhelmed, but he didn't get as much ice time. I believe he was scratched a game as well.
And he didn't make the most of it too. Well, as every time Kako was on the ice.
Yeah.
He impressed.
Everyone was watching. His edges, his weight, no one could push him off the puck. He's going to be amazing. And for Panarin to go in New York, the article just came out, there's no pressure for him. He signed that huge contract. You see a lot of players deplete after that, but I think at the end of the day, he's there to play hockey. That's what he enjoys there, and doesn't matter where he's played. Again, everyone was saying, oh, when he got traded from Chicago, now he's not playing with Kane. He's not going to hit the 80-point mark, and he had 87. It's like, dude, on Columbus. Like,
Panarin's just so sick.
Yeah.
So good.
And New York, like, a lot of people aren't looking at their second line, their third line, all the young Krattsov. Like, they have all these, Kreider, they have a surrounding cast where it's like, if Panarin's around that, there's a pretty talented team. I think you're going to have to keep an eye out for New York Rangers this year. And
It's they could definitely be a dark horse for a late push.
yeah, Panarin's a huge part of it. And that's if everything goes right. It's more of if Gorgiev can step up as the second goalie. Obviously, Lundqvist.
He's a lock.
He had the worst year he's had in a while last year, but I think he can definitely do better than that.
I mean, Lundqvist's worst year still puts him in like mid of the pack of starting goaltenders. Like, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, and yeah, just the direction they're going, who they might get for Kreider, the trade bait. I think it's an automatic lock at 8. And our next pick has been our biggest debate. I think we are probably the only podcast, or pretty much any list out there, that has Ovechkin at 9. NHL had him at 2, and
It sounds so crazy
It
just
does.
talking about it.
It does. Where this comes from is a 89-point season last year, 87 the year before. He always hits around the 50-goal mark, but he doesn't really break that 90-point upside. And
He doesn't know what a pass is.
no, and when we're looking at points here and what you bring to the table and where you can get them. If Ovi on a league that, when we have the $200 to spend last year, I think he went for around 60 because he's number 2. It was like McDavid and then Ovi. So if you're going to spend 60 on him when you can get the same points as Panarin or Huberdeau, essentially with their upside and what they're going to bring to the table this year, I don't see Ovechkin getting better. It's not like he'll get better, but he could still hit the 50 goals. It's more so 89 points is generous. I think this year he'll probably still hit the 87 to 90, but he's not going to break the 90-point range. It's more so the surrounding cast. Kuznetsov really had, a really good summer party-wise. I don't know if he'll be ready to go. He got suspended the first 3 games of the season. Not sure the details of that, but after that meeting of the whole him getting suspended for 4 years at the World, I don't know if that's just another what the NHL can do for it. But Backstrom, Wilson, obviously it's a really good line, but I don't see as much upside with Ovechkin. I think
He's not going to do more.
No, and we're looking for like hits or misses here. Like, our list are depending off, like, if you can see Huberdeau, NHL has them at 21 on wings, so that means he'll probably go 40th overall. If you can get him at an early rate, you're going to be happy. You're probably going to win your draft. If you draft Ovechkin, you know exactly what you're getting, and it's 88 to 90 points. And the upside of that is, 50 goals if that really matters in your league. But for me personally, I'd rather draft someone like Panarin, Huberdeau, a bit of a reach to get the same amount or more points. You're guessing on upside, and Ovechkin's got like a 90-point upside. Where did you have him on your list?
I had him drop down all the way to 5, just
Okay.
on those same reasons. The consistency on goals is why he still makes any of our lists. Really, if your draft or your league values goals at a 2 points per goal, then obviously you can move them up a little bit more. But these other players that we've been talking about are hitting 90 to 115. Like, they're all in that range. Well, as Ovechkin he's never going to hit 90 plus because he is what he is. He is what he is. He's just not
You know
an assist
exactly
machine.
what you're getting.
The assist he's getting is off rebounds.
Yeah. If it's a guaranteed pick. Obviously with the hits, his shooting percent 15.1 last year. He has an average of 12.6. So it might be a struggle to hit the 50 goal mark this year.
He might get 80 points instead of the 87. He might regress just a little bit.
I saw regressing still like an 85. But Backstrom's getting older. Kuznetsov, it's up in the air. So like there's a few questions surrounding it, and you heard it here first that he's dropping to number 9 on our points list. Absolutely.
If you're a top 5 pick, you don't rush to pick Ovechkin.
No.
Essentially.
No. And if you already have your goal scorer, you got like a Kucherov or whatever, you won't need Ovi on your list. So it's more depending on like who you're comboing, basically. And to combo him and Kuz or Backstrom is crazy at this point just because of age factors. And summer factors. So surrounding cast, line placement, I think it's like he's carried the team on his shoulders for a while. So if there's any dent in that, yeah, 85 points, tops 90 though, and that's why we have him so late on our draft. So yeah, we'll see what this year has in store when he gets that many points, and
he'll be in the running for the Rocket Trophy again.
Oh yeah,
he's not going to be anywhere near Jarrett Ross.
No.
So
no, those I think those days are over for sure.
Yeah,
him and Crosby getting hat tricks each in the playoffs are over. Those days are over.
So who'd you have at number 10?
Well, speaking of Pittsburgh, Gensel. This might be a bit of a reach. NHL had him as the 16th best winger. I have him at 10. He's been a pretty special pick for me for the last 3 or 4 years. He was my playoff, surprise pick a few years back, and he produced heavily. The reason I have him so high is he only had the 76 points last year, but it's a whole upside of him. He only had 11 power play points. With the departure of Kessel, that could easily reach the 30 points, and there's 20 points right there. You have him at 96. He's got a 16.3 average shooting percent. And him having, at the end of last year when Gensel and Crosby and I think Jared McCann, when he got traded from Florida, came on that line, they had mad chemistry. So going into training camp, knowing your top line, knowing that your power play has to be revolved around Crosby, Gensel, Malkin instead of a Malkin, Kessel, Crosby is going to have a huge factor on how many points he has this year. And I think it's more of the upside that his age, the placement with Crosby, that line's clicking. I think I could see him getting the 90, if not more points this year.
Especially the type of player he is, and the type of player that Kessel is.
Yeah.
This is one of those additions by subtractions,
yeah,
as far as this player goes. Gensel is just going to get more touches. And when you get more touches, you get more of those secondary assists, first assists. The scorecard doesn't care. An assist is an assist. You're going to get a lot more points from Gensel this year on the power play.
And he's more creative. If you looked at what Kessel has done in the past for power play, he's got a really good first stride. He's got a really good shot. But when you pass it to Kessel, 50% of the time, he's going to shoot it. And that's why Malkin and him last year were beefing about it. It was like, he was bitching that Malkin wasn't passing to him enough. It was like, dude, Malkin's an amazing player. Don't tell him what to do or not. If Malkin wants to keep it, he's probably good enough to know that. So Kessel has to, I think Arizona is going to be a way better replacement for him because he can be that number one dude. He's always been that star player, and him coming to a team like Pittsburgh with all these other stars, it's harder for him to find his placement. So I think Gensel coming up with Crosby, he's never going to bitch at Crosby, not that he didn't pass the puck, because he can play with him. He's way more creative. So you didn't have Gensel on your list?
I didn't have him on my list.
Yeah.
He was close. I was definitely debating.
As a just missed, eh?
Yeah, just missed.
Yeah.
On the 11. I just had some players listed higher.
Yeah, and you're more of a... You're
Safe.
looking at safe, guaranteed. I'm more looking at upside and what I've seen the last 3 or 4 years.
Gensel's ceiling has been 75. He could definitely do better playing more often with Crosby, getting more touches on the power play. I can agree with those points.
Yeah.
I just like the sure things.
Yeah, but at least tell me that at 76 points last year, 11 power play points, he's not going to hit at least 20 power play points this year.
I can definitely see that argument.
That's another 10. That's 86 points right there. So we're right in the range where you're going to see Gensel probably get top 7 or 8 next year.
It's real close.
Yeah. Last pick here. A lot of people have Gaudreau pretty high. I have him at 11. NHL has him at 9. I think you said 10 you had him?
I have Gaudreau at 8.
8. Okay.
I have him a little higher.
Yeah. So 8, 9, 11. Yeah. Why do you have him so high?
I just feel like even if Calgary regresses a little bit as a team, Gaudreau is just one of those guys that he doesn't really care if he wins the game or not at the end of the day.
He just wants.
He's just going to get his goals. He's going to get his assists. He's going to get his stats.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I just feel like he's a fantasy lock for his points.
He is.
That's all.
I have him locked at 90 points. I don't have him hitting more, only because, you're right about them regressing a bit. Giordano is pretty old, 35, 37, he's getting up there. He had 74 points last year. He'll probably regress to 60, and that's still a good season. It's just the age factor there. Everything was clicking on that line.
I would not bet on another Norris caliber season from Giordano.
No, and you look at the Pacific too. It was pretty weak last year. Now that you have the rise of Arizona, a few players, Pedersen's getting better. Vancouver's
Anaheim
getting
might
better.
be better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Terry, they have a few Comtos. Like they have a few young, really good players coming up, and I think it's going to be a harder division. John Gibson's one of my favorite goalies, and he plays for Anaheim.
They just got Anaheim just got rid of Perry.
As well, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's a little bit faster just by
Oh, yeah.
subtraction there.
Yeah,
So,
a little more rookie time going on there for sure. But I have him regressing to 90, and that's being generous. 14.7 shooting percent last year, averages at 12.8. He'll probably be right in the middle there. 36 goals last year. He might hit 30 this year if he's lucky. And I just have him regressing a bit. It's more so that after a while, I'm not sure what... and don't call me out on this, but after watching the games last year, I don't know what he was on, but he was definitely on some kind of drug. If you looked at him on the bench, I don't know if it was that shit they were sniffing, whatever it was.
he
That little
loves to smell insults.
that little like chlorine brick they break up and like gives him a little more energy. Whatever it is, I didn't see anyone else's pupils going that big. Like literally, his pupils were covering his eyes. Like they looked like a black hole of eye. Like
Johnny Hockey might have been in one.
he might. I like that.
Little shout out to my Commodore there.
I like that. But like that eventually catches up with you too. So if he's going to be doing that for the next couple of years, I think eventually it's going to catch up to him. When he was hot, he was hot. When he wasn't, you could see how it affected him. His emotions swung. Like Colorado shut him down in playoffs last year, and you could see him getting mad. He was missing on shots. I remember one of the last games he had like 2 or 3 breakaways, and he would just miss every time, like to the point where it was like I almost felt bad for him. I was like, dude, you gotta get one of these in. Like you're getting primetime chances, but when he's hot, he's hot. When he's not, he's not. And that's why I have him at 11. It's you're still guaranteed the 85, 90 points, but I have him regressing a bit. A couple shoutouts. There's a few players I wanted to put in that position. I just don't think they have as much upswing. Obviously, the year he had last year, we had to give him some credit. Just misses. I have Stone just missing.
Playing in Vegas for a whole season, whole year training camp.
Yeah.
He's going to be amazing. And when he has over a point a game during the playoffs, he's going to be ready to roll in Vegas, definitely.
Yeah, 12 points in 7 games in playoffs last
That's
year.
all right.
That's pretty good. 73 points last year, 77 games. So he's going to definitely hit the 80, 85 point range. My 11th pick is still a 90-point player, so I have him just missing. We're not putting into consideration the defensive play he has. Winning the best defensive player as not a center, I don't think has ever happened.
But he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be in consideration for years.
Yeah.
He's so talented at the stick lift. A little bit like Datsuk. If you remember how he just stick on sticks managed to get the puck.
You don't see it coming. It's deceptive. You're like, you don't even look like he's paying attention. He'll just take the puck. You're like,
yeah, pickpocket. It's terrific.
Yeah. So, yeah. Stone just missing. We can agree on that. A lot of people probably want to know why Wheeler isn't on this list. 91 points last year. I have him regressing to 80 points this year. And it's more so a surrounding cast. What the team's looking like this year. Obviously, it's not as well defensively. I'm not sure if Wheeler and Scheifele are having a bit of a fallout. You could start to see their chemistry sliding a bit last year.
The second half of the season was a disaster for the Jets.
Yeah.
Anyone who was watching could just tell the passes weren't connecting. They were having troubles just making 3 in a row. The chemistry just isn't there. And then Wheeler coming out and having an interview with Sarah Roleski, just admitting that he was putting so much pressure on himself that it ruined his family life. That's not one of those things that you just turn around in an off season.
And turn around, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to just keep going.
Yeah.
And if you're just looking for a source, I mean, Paul Maurice, I think, counts when he says that there's some ruffled feathers and that they're going to have to flatten them out before the season starts again.
Yeah, he did say that at the end of the year last year, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's not exactly words of confidence. And when the captain comes out right before the training camp starts and sort of throws himself and the team under the bus for his family issues, it's I don't think that's a good sign.
It's not, and especially as the captain of your team, you got to be willing to put in more than other players. You're the captain. You're the leader. Are you sacrificing things in your life to have a better hockey team, to do more with the boys? Are you going home, or are you going to practice? Are you getting the team together?
He's even lamenting about the rookies nowadays getting it easier than he did when he came into the league.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's in a good state mentally.
No, and maybe, like, you know, Maurice didn't really say where the problems were coming from, but there's been a few rumors around him and the Scheifele buff. Like, I'm not sure what happened there. I don't really want to know. I don't think anyone wants to know, but I think there's some harsh times coming, and it starts with the captain. And him regressing to 80 points is still a good year. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the top wingers in the league. NHL.com had him rated pretty high, but I just have him regressing, the whole age thing.
Hold on your horses on the Jets fandom. Top 11 is pretty high.
Yeah.
If we're making a top 25 list, he most likely makes it.
Top 25.
But-
I just missed. He's like the 13, 14.
I'm more down on him than you are.
Yeah. He's a guaranteed 80, though. Like, he's a guaranteed 80 point kind of player, I'd say.
Sure.
For more of an upside, though, you look at the other place on the wing on that line, Connor. 66 points last year, 19 power play points. If he reaches the 30, 35, I think his point production
Could equal.
It could. He could hit the 40 goal mark this year, 15.1% shooting percent average. He's one of the best upcoming players this year. It's more so of how that line can operate. I think Connor can play with anyone, so I'm not really worried about him. But I could see Connor getting 85, 90 points this year as well. I think he has a little more upside than Wheeler, but Wheeler has a little more consistency. So it depends where you're getting these players in the draft. If Wheeler's going 17 overall to 25 on NHL.com, and then you got Connor at like 40 to 50, take Connor. They're going to get the same amount of points.
Yeah, definitely.
Connor probably get way more goals than Wheeler too, which is a little more juicy in most of the drafts, how they're rated. So definitely watch out for Connor as it just missed. Your 11th pick, let's bring it up.
Well, not just the 11th. Actually, my 9 to 11th are all different from your list.
I was intrigued about Forsberg.
Yeah.
As your...
I have Forsberg at 11.
And why?
Duchesne coming in, terrific on the boards, terrific behind the net. He's just going to find them way more often than he's been able to in the last couple of years with a lack of talent on the Nashville team.
Well, and Johansson, right? He's been up and down. Like,
definitely.
Not very consistent. Good defense, but offense there.
And the Nashville power play has always been a disaster.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sort of say again, addition by subtraction, Subban leaving. Subban's a terrific player, don't get me wrong, but he shoots the puck 20 times a game, especially on the power play. He just shoots it every time he gets it.
Yeah.
And when Forsberg will get more touches, he's just going to inflate those power play numbers compared to seasons past big time. I just see him getting a big...
There's no doubt of how many points he'll get from this year to last year. I just had him as an injury concern. He only had 64 games last year, I think 65 the year before. He only had 50 points last year, but it didn't really really show what kind of player he is. He didn't really get in the groove of things. I think having a full season of him and Duchesne, and obviously about the power play, you got Roman Josi back there. He's not much as a shooter as Subban, so if Josi's passing to Forsberg, I'd way rather have Forsberg shooting than Subban. He's just one of those players
Definitely.
where he'll get 3 goals, he'll get 4 points, and then he won't get any points for 7 games. And he won't hit, he won't play defense. There's really nothing that is going on other than the point getting. So for an upside of him, I have him maybe reaching 80 this year. So you're not wrong about placing him in the top 11. It just depends where, again, you can get him in your draft there. Just some injury concern I'm worried about.
One of those names you just can't forget, really. If you're getting into the 40th pick and he's still on the board, he's one of those guys you want to jump on.
Yeah. And a lot of the leagues I've been in, you can't play players the whole 82 games. You only have a certain amount of players to play at that position, so you can only play each player 60 games. So if they're injured anyways, it's whatever, right? But I can agree with that as just missed. Did you have anything on your top 11 list that I didn't have?
2 other guys. Taylor Hall.
Where did you have Hall?
9.
9, okay.
I had him at 9. hopefully he's healthy this year.
Yeah.
And if he is, big bounce back season, contract year. This is going to sound like the opposite of what I said for Forsberg, but Subban coming in is just going to be, instead of having nobody, it's better to have a talented puck hog than no talent.
And nothing. Yeah.
Than nothing. And then with Jack Hughes too. So Heischer, Hughes, Hall, Subban, that's just a way better offensive punch in New Jersey.
Palmieri's good on that other side too, on that top line.
Definitely.
He's kind of underrated. So usually good for 25, 30 goals a year.
If Hall's healthy, he's a lock for 90. If he plays 80 games in a year, he's terrific.
Yeah, that's just the concern I've had. I think he's only had, I don't even know if he's ever had a healthy season. A couple of years ago when him and McKinnon were racing for the Hart Trophy, he only played 74 games but still got 93 points. So you have this injury concern where he's had like the 40 games, 50, 60, and then back to 40, 50. Like, he's always had this injury concern. So I think what pulls him on your list is the whole contract. I don't think he wants to play in New Jersey forever, or he already would have re-signed. They could have already signed him. So
he wants to get paid.
That, and maybe a better surrounding better cast. It's a little better for him, I would say. Obviously, when he got traded for Larson, took him a few obviously months if he hasn't got used to it already. He was pretty shocked that he got traded from Edmonton. That kind of got the wheel turning where it's like it made him better. He was angry, but now it's, I think, with his age and his talent, he's looking for more of a team to settle down and maybe win the cup with instead of pulling them. He's gonna have to, by the time New Jersey gets amazing, he's gonna be pretty old. So I think him moving to another team is quite possible, and I hope they get something for him. Maybe I don't really care about it. I want to see Hughes this year, but yeah, that's not a bad pick there. Who else did you have missing?
Pasternak at 10.
Oh yeah,
Pasternak, it's member of the super line.
Yeah.
He's just gonna get his points even with injury concerns. He plays 60 games, he still gets 80 points. He's just amazing.
Yeah.
When he's playing, he's good for a point and a half. Just terrific player.
Yep. There's no really arguing that on his line placement there. It's more so me as like an injury concern. He's had like 66, 65. He finally had a full season. Last year he only had 66 games. Still had 20 more points than games. So if he does hit the 82 game mark, he could definitely break the 100. It's just there's been so many little tweaks where it's like I don't see where the injury comes from, and I think that's more of something we're going to see every year. And the line getting a bit older too, it's more of a gamble for me. And where did NHL have him?
NHL had Pasternak at 6.
All right, and you had him at
10.
Yeah, so for me to not have him on my list, probably going to get hated on for that. I'm just more so looking at other people upcoming and their potential. Obviously, Pass it's a safe pick, but I'm looking at if you're picking him at 6 or 7 with that injury concern. It's hard for me to do that. It's
good to drop him a little bit. I think 6 is too high, but so is Ovi at 2. So
yeah, well, yeah, that's why I'm hoping our fans go off our list and maybe win some money on their pools there a bit.
And if you lose some money, we're not liable.
Do we have to say that before we do this shit? 2 more shoutouts. Let's wrap this up pretty quick. Jamie Benn, I have him for a bit of a breakout year. He only had, I think, 53 points last year, but he only had 11 power play points. Through the last 6 years before that, he'd have between 25 and over 30 power play points. So I think with Rope Hintz having a breakout year too, the addition of Pavelski, their power play is going to be ridiculous, and he should hit the 80-85 point mark again. Ben's going to be back this year. Keep an eye out for him. He's dropped way down in the NHL list, so if you can grab him at a decent price or whatever, definitely snag him. He has an average of 13.5 shooting percent, 14.3 last year. He'll still hit around the 14. It's not a debate. It's more so of him caring, and you could tell last year maybe he didn't care as much. Whatever the case was, everyone around him was stepping up, so he didn't have to as much, but you can tell he's a bit angry. He's going to come back hard, and I think he's going to hit the 80-85 point range. It's just more of a gamble.
Unfortunately, I think that there's that concern too that it might be one of those Cavalier situations.
Okay.
Terrific player, plays hard.
Yeah.
Getting around the 30-year-old age mark, it's hard miles, long miles. Mm-hmm. He was a terrific player for a long time. Maybe he's just can't keep up anymore with the much faster league.
But even if he can't, more so where I'm coming from these points is 11 power play points last year, playing on one of the best power plays for
That's
this
got to
year.
go up.
It'll for sure get to 20, if not 25, 30. So that's another about 15, 20 points there. So keep an eye out for Ben. Depends where he is on your placement. But Kessel, 82 points, 82 games last year.
I've got him going down.
I don't like the guy.
I don't like the guy either.
But I think he is consistent in what he does. And him coming to Arizona, he's always wanted to be the star player. So I think him...
Without the attention.
Yeah, and if he tells someone to pass it to him, they will. It's not going to be a conference about it, because everyone around him isn't as good. Full season of Schmaltz on the first line at center there.
Keller feeding him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty dirty line to the point where it's like Kessel will be able to do what he can do. He's going to hit the 85 point range. I'm not sure if he'll break it. If he does, good for him. I don't have him on my top 11 because I don't like him. I don't really want to see him do that well. You've seen in a few interviews, he doesn't really care about hockey. He doesn't really care about his teammates. He's been around a few teams for that reason. Somebody that talented that can get traded that much, you got to know there's something going on behind the scene. Was it 2 years ago when I seen Pittsburgh warming up in playoffs? Him and the trainer were just like looking around, chirping everyone, like just the attitude and everything. It's not a good energy to bring to the team. So good for Pittsburgh to get rid of that kind of thing. They don't need him with the elite players they have. So yeah, as a just miss, but I won't be picking him on my list.
I agree with everything you just said.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, it brings us to the end of segment 3. Thanks for listening today. We're going to be back probably in a couple days. We got a few of those preseason games coming up, which will be pretty exciting. So we're going to go into depth about that and maybe some of the training camp issues and pros and cons we've seen from that too on next episode. So yeah, we'll be back here. Cheers.